colored shirt on?
Yeah, it was like black. So I was like, man, I just look super casual right now. So maybe I should look a little bit more professional.
We like casual. Do you want to introduce yourself just for those that are in my network that might not know who you are? And you're a Compass agent in Chicago, but maybe a little more than that.
Yeah, my name is Jim Bazinski. I go by Jim B. Most people know me as Jim B. It's something I adopted in my previous life in advertising, and it's kind of followed me, a lot of years later. I've been selling real estate for about 17 years and have really kind of focused on the Chicago market. I'm out of the Roscoe Village office, which is the northwest side of Chicago, about a mile west of Wrigley Field, for everybody who knows Wrigley Field. And I'm very active. What's that?
I said
no one's heard of Wrigley?
Everyone should know Wrigley, and everyone needs to get to Wrigley.
Yes, and same thing with Fenway.
Yeah, but they're both they're the best parks, I'd say, but there's something different about Wrigley coming from the Boston. It's like you sit in the bleachers at Wrigley or anywhere in the park, and there's just more of a relaxed feeling or something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I'm on vacation when I'm there.
Yeah, no, it's very, it's very neighborhoody though. It's like you feel like you're with all your neighbors, even though it's become a pretty big tourist attraction. But you feel like everybody and everybody knows each other. So it's kind of like a big family.
Yeah.
And all those years of losing certainly helps kind of fuse all that together.
Yep, that's one thing we have in common, but we don't have either of those things in common anymore.
No, finally. I was talking with Kit and I was like, are you sure? Like, I haven't, he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't remember. I'm like, yeah, of course, Kit's not going to remember these things, but.
Oh, that we met in person.
Yeah.
So we should probably introduce, the reason we're talking about Kit is because my brother Kit is your good friend in Chicago, and you're also his realtor, and you're selling his house. So that's one of the reasons we're together talking.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny how how everything kind of collides as far as the worlds and.
Yeah, the worlds are colliding for sure. How are you handling, listings, showings, dealing with clients during the COVID-19? I mean, we're starting to get closer to the place where we might be getting better, but we're still in it. So what's going on?
Like the people who are really kind of focused on staying at home, which, that's what we're encouraged to do. And that's what most of us have been doing. It kind of loosened a little bit May 1st. So, the market woke up a little bit in kind of response to that. So, we've been kind of focusing on social media a lot. We've really tried to kind of utilize a lot of the Compass tools that we have as far as trying to make still photos into videos, trying to present the listings in a little bit different way. And, with the amount of activity that the social media sites are seeing since all this has happened, I think that's kind of the place where we really focused on and got a lot of eyes online, at least. We are doing showings here with masks, gloves. I've got a holster of Purell on my belt. So we do them. We try to limit it to a few people, 2 or 3 people max. But we still are selling places and showing places pretty actively. What do you see over in Boston?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in Boston, it's very similar. I would say the agent community has been doing a lot of focus on, organizing CRMs, getting the marketing going, connecting with people, whether they're clients in the past, present, or future. And we're definitely considered essential workers. So we're out there showing stuff too under, I would say, a little more stringent circumstances. So we're trying to vet out before we, imposition a seller or buyer or ourselves or the other agent, try to vet them a little bit more than we normally would, make sure they've driven by the property, make sure they're pre-approved. In some cases, we're asking for pre-approvals before we take them there. And then obviously one at a time, separation of 10 feet or more, masks, gloves, all that stuff. I have one of my masks. This is in my new realtor toolkit, which is like the new fashion.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Yeah, it's
that's
snazzy.
a nice one. Yeah,
But yeah, similar
I've
stuff.
had two masks made for me. I have a client that actually is an interior designer, and she had a little side business of making some masks. So there's some pretty unique fabrics that she has to offer, and so
Yeah,
diversifying a little bit since it's part of the it's part of
it's
the gear
trend.
that we're wearing these days.
Yeah, my wife's aunt knit or sewed a bunch of them for our kids, like ninja masks and like
Yeah.
Patriots masks and stuff. And my son yesterday was riding around the neighborhood. He doesn't. There's no one within a mile of him, but he's got the thing on. He loves think he's a ninja and stuff. So trying to make it.
I'm still trying to get my kids to that point because they're still complaining that they can't breathe. And I'm
Yeah,
like, I guarantee that you can breathe.
yeah.
But it's baby steps with everybody.
Have you put what kind of success stories have you had during this shelter in place situation? Like, have you put deals together? Have you accepted offers, closed? What kind of stuff have you transactionally have you been doing?
We were really lucky because over the last 6 weeks or so, we've had, and when I say we, I have a small team of three different agents, and it's called Jim B and Partners. And so when I say we, it's more of talking about the small team that we do have. But we had 6 or 7 closings that were scheduled before all this happened. And obviously, you always kind of say, are these still going to happen? Are the title companies going to be open? Are the banks going to be lending?
Yeah.
And the good news is that we were 7 for 7. So we closed everything out. I don't get to sit at the table with my clients as they're, if they're buyers, when they're signing their documents. But it's funny because I can be on the call, or their attorney can be on a call, and they're signing all those documents from their cars, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of us kind of are like, in 20 years, when you're buying your home for your grandkids or something like that, you'll say, when I bought my first home, it was inside my car. So
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of that
Pandemic.
that's going to be going on. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a refinance that was scheduled before this all happened, and then we had the closing during it. And we drove up to the attorney's office in our car, kids in the back. I got out with a mask and gloves, signed on the hood of my Jeep, and my wife had to do the same. The attorney's, 10 feet away. It was crazy. We took some photos. I don't know where the photos are, but yeah, it's definitely crazy times.
Yeah. And as far as we had a couple active listings that were on, and so with those active listings, things are a little bit slower than they are, and kind of what I've been preaching to a lot of people, and even our attorney that I work with kind of talks about this too. Is we're kind of in winter mode, even though it's the spring market.
Yep.
So winter mode is more like stuff is happening here and there, but it's not necessarily like
Mad rush.
hitting the pavement hard. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not dead. It's not typical spring market, which is our biggest market here in Chicago. But things are still happening, which is encouraging as the weather gets better and some of the restrictions are loosening.
Yeah, we had I would say the market here generally over the past 3-4 years has been very spring focused. So
yeah,
preparing listings in the winter, getting them on as early as February if the temperatures allow. And weather is a huge impact on people kind of getting out and getting fired up in a normal market. And it's the same now. Like in the last, I don't know, this past weekend and maybe last Thursday, Friday, it was really nice. It was maybe 70 degrees.
Yeah.
And
we had that too.
It's such a difference in my own mood and everyone's mood. And also obviously we've been locked up. But buyers, my phone was ringing off the hook, emails coming through, people want to buy and sell, move, crazy. Like the spring just literally woke up in the last week.
Right. I think the shelter in place has also played a part of that because everybody's home, whether if they have kids or if they have a roommate or if they have, just a significant other. I'm getting a lot of phone calls and emails where it's like, we're realizing that we don't have enough space, and we really have to kind of look at what's coming on, and people asking me kind of my take on what's going on with the market and what's going to be happening over the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, which is still going to be hard to kind of define. But I think it's pretty interesting where the people who maybe were in a little bit closer quarters, whether they were in a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom condo, they're saying, hey, you know what, my kids really need a yard to play in, or we just don't have a lot of space where both you know, if there's if it's a two person that's working household, you know, where am I going to work if we're both working from home? How are we going to do calls like this when we need it's a little bit of privacy and quiet?
Yeah.
Where does the dog go so he's not barking while I'm on a call like this?
Yep. Yep.
So I think there's a lot of those things that are happening, a lot of realizations that are happening for homeowners, where that actually I think is going to help the real estate market moving forward.
Yeah, there was some data. There was some data points sent out, which I'm sure you got from the CEO Robert Revkin about Compass, Compass.com searches, and the 3 or 4 big ones were huge increase in needing more square footage than would typically be searched for. Outdoor space, obviously people doing searches with outdoor space rather than without. I think people looking at single families and also pools has tripled.
Yes.
Which isn't a surprise, but you know these people have been cooped up and they're probably just thinking, I need more space, I need recreation, I need to live, kind of stuff. So it's
So I think that, you know, I think some of that will fuel the market as things begin to loosen, you know, as well. But you know, I think that there's still going to be some kind of feeling out once things do kind of progress, and you know, like you said, with the weather getting nicer. And I think that you guys probably get the same weather as we have a couple days later. But yeah, we had those nice days as well. And, you know, there's certainly a lot more people out and about, but masked up and with gloves on, pretty much everyone.
What do you see for the next, you know, the rest of this spring and then summer and fall? How do you think the market is going to do in Chicago?
Well, I'm hoping that basically the market where it was kind of jumps over the shelter in place that we've seen and will begin again in the summer, because usually our market is, you know, as soon as 4th of July hits, it's very, very quiet.
Yeah.
And you know, because everybody who wanted to buy in that year kind of bought already, and you know, then kind of they enjoy the rest of their shortened summer that we usually have here in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get into fall. Yeah, we get into fall and winter markets that are a little bit slower again. So I'm hoping, and I think that, you know, buying a home is, you know, and you know this, buying a home is not something that you just kind of decide on a whim. A lot of people plan for this, you know, at least 6 months, 12 months in advance, which, you know, is also kind of the restriction that the market's kind of placed on a lot of the sellers who were planning, you know, for a year to get their place ready to put it on the market now, because this is prime time and they would likely sell their home. So I think that a lot of people who didn't have their places on the market before the shelter in place hit have been kind of waiting it out. But you know, we've been using Coming Soon, the Compass Coming Soon, and the private networks that we have to still mark those properties. But we're not planning on putting those active on MLS until pretty much all the restrictions removed. So I think that, you know, the buyers that I've talked to feel like there's been a lot of limited inventory right now for a reason. And then hopefully all those people who are going to be or that we're planning on selling in the spring market, hopefully that's going to happen in the summer.
Yeah, we had a bunch
Sorry,
of...
my dog is drinking water right next to me here.
Oh, that's all right.
Get out of here. If you hear that lopping up of water, that was a big dog kind of making a big mess. So sorry.
My dog is behind the camera, passed out with his head in his dish, in his bowl.
Oh, there you go. See, that was the benefit of the walk before the call, right?
Yep. Zonk him out. But yeah, I was just going to say that we had 5 or 6 listings, you know, sellers that were prepared, getting ready for the spring market.
Yeah.
And basically we just continued on with preparation. We decided to take care of all the marketing, photos, all that stuff, marketing plans, virtual stuff like Matterport, so people can do virtual walkthroughs. And we're doing the same thing. We're utilizing the Coming Soon. We're doing a lot of digital marketing. So places like Facebook and Instagram, social media places, people that are home stuck searching for whatever they're searching for. If it matches up with the listing, they'll see it as a sponsored ad, etc. And that's actually working. People are calling in, and the market in Greater Boston. So Landmark Property Group does business in Greater Boston, and we also do near where I live down in the South Shore. and we're hearing about multiple offers.
Yeah.
There was a situation the other day, 22 offers on a property, 11,
Whoa.
11 offers on another property. So those
Awesome.
anecdotal things are definitely signs that, and it depends on the price point. I think the best
Yeah,
price
for sure.
point is always probably 500 to a million somewhere. I don't know if that matches up with yours, but
No, it's exactly matches up with us because we are seeing that the million plus is a little slow right now,
yeah.
but the 500 to a million is real hot.
Yeah, and we're doing the same thing. We're on Coming Soon. We're getting calls. We're doing showings carefully, and we're
Hmm.
doing virtual tours and viewings. I'm doing virtual open houses for brokers and other buyers and stuff like that. Public open houses in a virtual type setting. Instagram Live. We're talking about
Nice.
doing one of those, although that's a little nerve wracking to get on live. But
Ugh.
yeah, probably do that. And then yeah, we're going to monitor the situation and put these things on MLS this week, next week, coming, the next couple of weeks. And I think your guess is correct. I think there'll be plenty of activity. I think the spring, basically, we missed it, and I think the summer will be busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I think we're still in two very strong financial markets, being Chicago and Boston. So, I mean, even in the downturn of the market that we both experienced, gosh, what has it been? So a little over 10 years ago,
Yeah.
12 years ago, we still had activity. I mean, yeah, things were down, prices were down, everything was down, but we still had a good amount of activity because these are still very strong cities that there's still a lot going on. So,
Yeah.
I think we're a little protected, over maybe some smaller cities and towns. But I think that the whole entire country and the whole entire economy kind of relies on that too.
Yeah, and I think if you're smart about your pricing and about making the right adjustments when you're marketing a property in a financial crisis or a pandemic or whatever, you've got to be cognizant of those things and you've got to take them into consideration. You don't
Right.
want to be foolish and say, oh, I don't believe any of that stuff, and we're going to price it. We're going to price it, because you might find yourself 3 or 4 weeks kicking yourself, going, why did I overprice this thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I think that we're really trying to kind of put ourselves in the frame of mind where, typically we do in the winter time when someone's desperate to sell in the winter. It's not a time. That's not a time to explore different price points or try to set new records on price. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, if you want to sell, let's sell it right. Let's price it right. And obviously we want to sell it for every dollar that we can get for you. But at the same time, I mean, we're your consultants. So, we have a lot of experience to provide and a lot of knowledge to share. So, we'll put you in the right position in order to get you guys sold.
Yeah, definitely. I have a Compass Concierge project that was literally just completing, I don't know, 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I think they're pretty glad they did it because, you want to position your property in the best light possible. And even more so when there's a bit of a bumpy situation with, the pandemic and being able to market and all that stuff. And we've got another
Right.
one that's about to, come into play as well. They're starting to consider it. Do you use any of that Compass Concierge for any of your projects?
Yeah, we're starting to use it a little bit more. I'm actually curious as to hear, like, what are the types of projects you guys typically are doing in order to prep a property? Because in Chicago, most of our inventory, especially the condo inventory, most of that was built in the late 90s to early 2000s when the big real estate boom was happening.
Yep.
So, even, 15, 20 years later, there's a lot of dated properties. I mean, the layouts are open, which everybody wants, but, you've got a lot of maple wood, red maple wood, that kind of looked like cherry, which, cherry is kind of the big no-no around here. I mean, nobody likes red these days. So trying to get rid of red cabinets, red floors is always kind of the biggest hurdle that we have, because a lot was built with those types of finishes.
In the 90s,
So
right?
yeah,
90s?
so yeah, the late 90s, early 2000s. And so, we found that over the last 2 or 3 years, the condo buyer is, they want move-in ready. They want brand new. They don't want to pay brand new, but they want brand new.
Exactly.
So just, so our common projects are pretty much spray painting cabinets, just like they came out of a factory, and then maybe changing countertops in a kitchen. But
Yep.
once you have that kind of nice, clean white or gray kitchen, the places sell. But the ones that have the old maple or the old red cherry, those kind of sit around. So what do you guys see as far as your prep for like as far as concierge is concerned, or any types of kind of small construction projects before?
Yeah, I would say it runs the gamut. So a lot of the properties in the Boston area and the South Shore are older.
Hmm.
Some have had renovations, and those we don't dip into concierge as much. But
Right.
a lot of the stuff is older. Recently, we did something for a single family in Cambridge, which is an amazing property, amazing location, but really hasn't had a lot of work done to it. And we sat down with an interior designer, with the sellers, and we talked about, what can we do? What's the budget? What's a reasonable amount that you want to spend? What kind of returns can we get? We decided in the end with the seller that they don't want to gut the kitchen. They don't want to gut the bathrooms. They don't,
Yeah.
that's, first of all, it's like very customizable. Most new buyers probably want to pick their selections.
Right.
So they don't want your choices necessarily, and it's difficult to pull off, and it's not cheap. So we went with the cosmetic approach. We pulled out old rugs or linoleums. We laid down matching hardwoods. We painted for sure, because that's the best bang for the buck.
Sure.
Where it was possible, we cleaned, obviously removed any kind of older window things. We lightened everything up.
Yeah. The brightness factor, I think, is really something that's very popular, because it's like, and again, now I think everybody wants light. Everybody wants, the days of the old dark woods and dark browns and,
Mhm.
this kind of earthy type feel, it's definitely behind us.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think the idea was similar to what you said. Most people now that are buying, they don't necessarily want a huge, huge project. They don't
Yeah.
mind doing a bathroom or kitchen, as long as the one that's there is functional.
Right.
They can kind of, put that on the back burner for a year, but, making sure the structure is sound, repointing where necessary, cleaning,
Yeah.
obviously, hardwoods, fresh coat of paint with a nice palette that's, good for a bunch of people. And they can change rooms if they want, but at least they can move in, put some window treatments up, be ready to go. That kind of thing.
Right.
That's
So do
probably
you work with a lot of builders too, Mark?
Yeah, we do a lot of development stuff in the greater Boston area. So a lot of condo conversions, a lot of new construction, things like that. And those obviously aren't going to require any of that cosmetic stuff. One thing we have done for those clients, though, is use Matterport, obviously, but also the virtual staging. So I don't know if you've done any virtual staging with some of your
Hmm.
marketing and photography companies, but it works wonders, because it's not obviously as expensive for the seller to drop, whatever it is, $3,000 or $4,000.
Thousands. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, stage something. Whereas, I can cover that cost. It's in the hundreds. And then, it allows someone to see what the space would look like. So it's kind of a hybrid approach between, filling it with staging and showing it vacant. So it's kind of a good, it's treated us well.
So how have you handled then? I mean, because I agree that the photos, at the end of the day, the photos are what bring people in the door. I mean, our descriptions and everything else that we do are, obviously in support of the photos.
Yeah.
So getting them to look amazing is great. What have you done once the buyer wants to come in order to kind of help frame their minds as to how things can be placed?
Sometimes we blow up the virtual staging photos and put them on easels in the room.
Okay. Oh, smart. Yeah.
There are technologies where you can kind of use like virtual glasses and things like that. I can't remember what they're called, but
Like VR stuff?
yeah, virtual reality goggles
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
We haven't gone too crazy with that, but I think that will come in the future. I think that's something we're going to look at as it gets a little easier to use and not as crazy. But I think, like you said, the images are what people see online mostly in social media and websites, things like that. And once they get to the space, I mean, our job is to get them to the space.
Right.
Then,
And then we can sell it. Then we can
yeah.
sell it.
And they're going to either buy it or they're not. We're not car salesmen. We're not going to sell them a house. I mean,
Right.
we show them the attributes. We show them why it's, a great property. But at the end of the day, they either fall in love with it or they don't. So I think
Right.
it's more just painting the picture for them from the outset.
Nice. Have you actually? I'm just curious if you have heard of VizHome in Boston.
Yep, I
Have
used
you
them a
worked?
bunch.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, I've been working with them for 10, 11 years now.
Yep.
And the technology that I really enjoy, and I think that especially even, I'm glad I've been using it forever because it's really the technology people want today, you know, with not going in as many properties as they usually would.
Yep.
But the furniture planner that they have for their floor plans is really phenomenal. And, you know, with the, even with people with a property that's staged or that's lived in, uh, I think a lot of people will go into those spaces and be like, okay, so their couch is here, so my couch has to be here. So their table's here, my table has to be here.
Mhm.
And I try to get people, and I think that's part of the strength of us being out there and showing properties and trying to sell them, is to also get them to think about how they can set it up. You know, it doesn't have to be set up that way. And I think kind of leaning on technology like VizHome has, where they're able to put in their own furniture. Because I think, you know, with being in the business as long as we have, I've certainly had the clients that are buying a property not for them, but for their grandma's dining room table that they inherited, or
Yeah.
or their
Sectional
favorite
couch.
sectional couch that is like the shape of a crescent moon.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, can you buy the place first and then buy the furniture?
Yeah.
But you know, even for situations like that, you know, I think that technology is, and a lot of other technologies that are available out there that kind of help with that. And you know, that's kind of something I do preach with my clients that do have properties that are vacant and don't have furniture in them. Even if we have furniture in the photos, we still need to have some sort of tool for them once they walk in and try to figure out the plan.
Yep.
So, like I said, I've kind of leaned on that technology to help me out with that, and it's been very successful.
Yeah, that's true. I would say as a broker and agent, I am extremely happy to be a Compass during the situation, to have
Yeah.
access to tools and technology that I really didn't have access to before in my prior real estate company. You know, the CRM, for instance, I've been able to utilize, and I've had to spend a lot of time organizing it. You got to put the effort in, but um,
Yes.
that for sure. Things like the collections that I can set up in a mobile app for people. I mean, the ability to do all this stuff in a mobile way, video
Yeah.
creation. I don't know. I'm sure you're on the same page with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, it's really been interesting because, you know, when a big company like Compass invades our markets, you know, we're always just like, what is going on, you know, and then you kind of join and you're like, wow, everything that they said that they would give us and that was going to be different is,
Yeah.
and usually that, you know, anything that's different doesn't really kind of meld with the real estate community
Yep.
as far as brokerages are concerned. So yeah, I mean, the tools are really everything that I've ever wanted, and you know, and more. You know, it definitely takes some getting used to, but I mean, once you do utilize the tools that we have, I mean, it's so quick and it's so easy and it looks amazing. And you know, it's funny. I was actually talking to your brother, who used to work for Google and has a very good technology background, and I sent. He actually received my monthly newsletter yesterday. He's like, man, he's like, that's got to be like Groundhog Day every time you have to put that thing together. I'm like, oh no, Compass does it for me. I'm like, I customize it and I add this and that. I
Yep.
said, but what you think that I've been spending hours and hours and hours doing took me about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's you know, when consumers and our customers and our sphere receive that type of format and that type of presentation, it makes us look pretty darn good. But you know, at the same time, and when we're marketing someone's property the same way, because I utilize the email newsletters for new listings or coming soon listings for different properties, and also having access to the network where we can target agents who are specifically selling in these neighborhoods.
Yep.
I mean, you know, the agents feel the same way. And the best part is, with human nature today, nobody summarizes things. They just hit forward to their clients. And so we get that type of formatting and that type of presentation
Yep.
in the eyes of the end user, which is the person who eventually is going to come through the door, which is really cool.
it's in a clean format and it's easily,
Awesome.
transmittable, shareable, and it's good on a mobile device. I had an agent, I sent out a new listing, I don't know, last week or something to, I don't know, 7 or 8 thousand people,
Yeah.
many of which were agents. And an agent that I did a deal with, 10 years ago or something at another company, which I will not name, but it's a rather large company, said, "This is amazing. Can I buy your list? I want to, you're so organized. I want to be able to do these when I have new properties, but I don't know how to get a list for all the agents or whatever."
Right.
Oh man, you're in the old world.
I know it's funny because it's like, I mean, I remember having to try to track down lists and trying to put down lists. I mean, it was not easy, and even those list services that you could buy the list from. I mean, half the emails and names were no good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the support that we have is pretty phenomenal, and I almost don't even want to tell all the agents about it because it's like I kind of want it to myself.
Yeah, totally. Shifting gears to homeschooling.
Oh.
You got a couple kids.
Yeah, and notice you don't hear anybody. They're at grandma's today.
Ah, lucky guy.
Yeah, yeah. They had the day off of school today. The professional development still happens apparently when we're in shelter in place.
Maybe more so. Maybe they need it more so to collect it.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
So,
How have you been going with homeschooling?
uh, you'd have to ask my wife. She's running
Ooh,
that for the most part because I've had to work,
yes.
mostly. But I've helped as much as I possibly can. 3 kids, so an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So 3 different levels, 3 different curriculums. Uh, it's difficult to manage at once, and we do our best, but I would say it's been challenging. When I've been able to take one, usually the oldest one, and remove him and focus
Yeah.
with him, and then she can focus, on the 6-year-old, um, that helps. And they do a lot of Zoom calls, they do a lot of that stuff. I mean, I feel bad for the teachers. I mean, they have quite a tough hand they've been dealt.
Right.
I also feel bad for the parents, like myself. You know? But we're trying. I think everyone's trying to make the best of it. But I think we won't really know like what kind of impact this is going to has had until maybe a year from now or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of summarizes everything. I mean, I think we need a year to kind of figure out what the impact it's had on everything. I mean, the homeschooling things, is I think it's been fairly successful. At the same time, I don't think it's fine what they've already learned, or if it's that they're actually learning new things. I guess time will tell on that.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, no, I mean, I just like you said. I mean, I have a very a different place that I feel for teachers these days because I'm like, man, if you have to deal with this every single day for the last, like my kids are 9 years old and they're in third grade, twin boys, and I'm like, wow, you guys have really done pretty well because this is not easy. This is not easy.
it is not easy. What was I just going to say? Summer camps. I don't
Oh,
know what I mean, this is going to be
it
the one.
seems like every day, like another one's being canceled. So,
Yeah.
we're kind of like in that mode where it's like, it's probably not going to happen. And if we do get a few of them that kind of stick around, then great. But I think we have to kind of plan that what we're seeing now is kind of what we're going to get for a while.
Yeah, and in the fall, I imagine there may be some hybrid of, maybe a couple days in school, a couple days virtual. I mean, they're going to have to minimize the classrooms, I would think, because it's not like this virus is going away for anytime soon in a real way, and there's no vaccine likely to come for another, 12 months or something. So
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah, I think what they're saying too is, yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe if they split the classes in 2 or 3 just to kind of be able to space people out, but then they're like, with I don't know, pretty much any kids, how are you going to keep them apart when they're not sitting in their desks? It's tough because they're still kids.
yeah,
So hopefully we make a lot of breakthroughs, and I mean, that's the cool thing about this is that, I mean, we can actually visually see how things are progressing. We're getting a lot of good reports as to the findings that are happening, but yeah, I mean, I don't think that they don't get cures or vaccines very quickly, and all that stuff has to be tested, because at the end of the day, I don't want to take anything that I don't know that it is going to work or not. So
Yep.
let the pros do, and hopefully they get it done quickly.
Yeah, I think one of the things my wife and I have been focused on, not only just, trying to get a little bit of education in them and a little schooling, is like not to put too much pressure on ourselves and to try to stay as mellow as we can, so that we don't kind of pass along anxiety to them. I think that
Yeah,
gets
no, because
overlooked.
it's stressful for everybody. Yeah, I mean, kids and parents alike. I mean, we're all in this. That's the thing I keep on preaching to my children is like, we're all in this together. This is a
Yeah.
team effort here. So,
Yep.
and I mean, I know that that's kind of hard when when both parents are working, or even if the single parent's working, to kind of pass on that knowledge all the time. But I think out of all times, I mean, because we have the time with them as much as we do,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good teaching moments, for how to live life and how to deal with stress and issues and all that. Because
Yeah.
it's definitely in everybody's faces right now.
How to persevere when you have some situations that aren't ideal in front of you, and how to stay calm and carry on, basically.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what do you have any like plans to do anything this summer? Or are you gonna
We're
just kind
gonna
of stick around and see what happens?
we're gonna try to find maybe a rental for a week or something that's isolated, maybe has access to either a pool or ocean, something that if things don't get better, we can still go there, hopefully, and just
Drive
yeah,
there.
drivable for sure. Like
Mhm.
basically minimize the variables and just have a good vacation and chill out for a week. I mean, we're hoping to do that.
Right.
How about you guys?
Right. Yeah, I think we're kind of looking for a little bit of the same. I mean, we have my kids play hockey, so we usually do a summer camp in Minnesota. It's called Hockey and Sons. It's just the dads and the kind of hang out for a bit of a different scenery, whether it offers hiking or beach, just something different. Because what you see here is what I see a lot of.
Yeah,
And while I love my house, I'm ready for a little bit of a break.
absolutely. I wish I could take like a whole month off and just go relax,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, I cannot do that.
No, I mean, that's the good thing. I mean, and I think that the interesting thing too, and even in looking at people in our industry, because I'm on Facebook a lot more than usual, and Instagram a lot more than I'm usual. Uh, the interesting thing that I'm taking away from that are all the real estate agents that are like, oh my gosh, I'm not busy. There's nothing going on. I'm so bored. I'm like, well, you're not doing something right, because even though, like I said, we're in kind of winter mode here. In the winter, I still have a lot of stuff to do, and and even throughout this time, I'm pretty busy. I mean, obviously we've got the homeschooling and all that stuff also kind of contributing to, or kind of sucking away some of the time of the day.
You
But
broke up there a little, maybe my connection, but
oh,
it's all right.
I made such a great point too.
It was
No, I was just
amazing.
saying that it was an amazing point that I'll never be able to recreate again.
Right, right. No,
No, I was just
think I
saying
heard
that
just
it's
the
it's
chaos,
pretty
right?
it's pretty busy in our house, and with work, with
Yeah.
also having to deal with the homeschooling. I mean, 5 or 6 o'clock comes pretty fast.
Yeah, I think anyone that's like got nothing to do and says they're not busy is not focusing where they should be, because I
Right,
mean, there's just not enough time in the day for me to get stuff done.
right,
If
right,
I'm not showing a house, I should be working on marketing or
right.
organizing my CRM, or there's plenty of things to educate yourself further or whatever. So yeah, I mean, we've been super busy. The first few weeks was a little slow, and then I think we kicked back into normalcy kind of middle of this. At least I did,
Yeah,
as far as a day-to-day regimen. And also just, I think we maybe kicked the can down the road for the first few days or the first few weeks of this thing, like not knowing what was going on, and the anxiety
right,
kicked in. And I think I just slapped myself eventually and said, create a schedule, get back to what you're doing, focus on your clients, help the wife, help the kids, working out has been, I've never worked out more in my life. So
I'm running, and I am not a runner. And actually, you know what? I hate to run, but I'm running. It's
it's such a release.
just it gets me out of the house. It's a release, and people are like, I mean, most people run with music, and you know what? I run with nothing.
Yep.
I just kind of put my head down, and I'm obviously weaving through people and going on the street and onto the sidewalks.
Yep.
Just trying to keep the distance. But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, sure. Do I have a little bit more time to do things like that than I don't do? Yes, but that's because I'm not driving somewhere and I'm not spending all the time in the car.
Yep.
So it's not the fact that I'm not as busy. It's just that. Did I lose you again?
Yeah, it's getting squirrely, so we might want to go in. Maybe it's telling us we should be wrapping it up.
You're like, shut up, guys! You're talking way too much.
Realtors like to talk a lot. That's the moral of the story.
Actually, yeah, no, it's funny. I have buyers today that it's a couple. They just got engaged last weekend, and they had their search on hold, but all of a sudden this engagement happened, and they're like, all right, we're ready to buy. They're like, they even asked me today. They're like, should I bring my checkbook? And I was like, I don't think you need to bring your checkbook just yet. Let's look at these 6 properties, and then we can kind of talk about things afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, they're ready to go. They're ready
Isn't
to
that
go.
crazy when that happens? I mean, people just turn on a switch and they just.
Yeah.
The funny part is when people say, "Well, we're really not in a rush, but we'll go out," and I'm like, I guarantee by the second day, they'll be ready to make an offer on something. Because once they get excited and they start to see stuff, then they just fast forward.
Yeah. No. And again, I think that. That also is a testament to staying in touch with the people that we have that we're already talking to. I mean, because if we're not staying in touch with everybody, then maybe they don't have real estate at top of mind. And
Yeah.
I think again it's for sellers and buyers.
Yep.
And that's the thing is it's a cyclical process. So the more buyers we have, the more sellers that we can help out, and the more sellers we have, the more buyers we can help out. So. Us doing our part as essential workers, a lot of weight in this, and the economy as well.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate you taking part in this COVID conversation.
Ooh, yes, it was fun. No, it was. It's good to kind of make sure that we do know what we're doing, and getting some validation from other professionals in other markets. And I think that this is. I think our markets are very similar.
Yeah.
We have a ton of neighborhoods, and we have a ton of great locations to live. For whatever needs that each buyer or seller has. So I think it was valuable.
Awesome, man. Well, have a great weekend, and we will talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Take care.
All right. Peace out.
All right. Bye.